I knew something was wrong the moment I saw his hands shaking. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was just off. We were standing in the parking lot of a small medical building just outside Spokane, the kind with faded brick and a soda machine that never worked. My husband, Ethan, stood beside our car, keys dangling uselessly from his fingers, staring straight ahead like he was bracing for impact. "Ethan," I said, "what did the doctor say?" He didn't answer. For 12 years, silence had been our language, not the angry kind, the quiet, comfortable kind, the kind you build when you think you know someone so completely that words feel optional. But this silence was different, heavy, loaded, dangerous. "I need you to listen," he finally said. Those words don't sound threatening, but when someone you love says them without looking at you, your body knows before your mind catches up. We sat in the car, doors closed, windows up. The world moved on around us while mine slowed to a crawl. "They found something," he said. My chest tightened. "Cancer?" He shook his head. "No, nothing like that." Relief came fast, too fast. "There's a condition," he continued. "Genetic, rare." I waited. I didn't interrupt. I'd learned that about him early on. If you rushed Ethan, he shut down. "It affects memory," he said, "specifically long-term memory, the kind tied to identity." I laughed softly. "You mean like forgetting names, because you already do that." He didn't smile. "It said it's progressive." The word hit harder than it should have. Progressive meant moving forward. Progressive meant not stopping. Progressive meant we wouldn't get to decide when. "What does that mean?" I asked. He swallowed. "It means eventually I won't remember things the way I do now." I reached for his hand. It was cold. "Eventually when?" "That's the problem. There's no timeline." The car felt too small, the air too thin. "And there's something else," he added. "There's always something else." They asked about my childhood, family history, things I should remember clearly. I nodded slowly. "Okay." And I couldn't answer. That's when the ground shifted. "I mean, I answered," he said quickly, "but I don't know if they were real answers. Some of the memories felt borrowed, like stories I told myself so long I forgot they weren't mine." I stared at him. "Ethan," I said carefully, "what are you saying?" He finally turned to me then, really looked at me. "I don't know if my past is actually my past." The words settled between us like a crack in glass. Not shattered, not broken, just fractured enough to spread. I thought about the boxes in our attic he never opened, the photos he never explained, the people who never visited. 12 years of marriage, and suddenly I wasn't sure how much of it rested on truth. "I need to figure this out before it gets worse." "And what if you don't like what you find?" I asked. His voice dropped to almost nothing. "What if I already don't?" Outside, someone laughed. A car horn beeped. Life continued. But inside that parked car, something irreversible had begun. And I didn't yet know that this was the last day I believed I knew my husband at all. That night, Ethan didn't sleep. Neither did I. He lay beside me, eyes open, staring at the ceiling like it might offer answers if you watched long enough. I pretended to rest, counting his breaths, listening for changes, for proof that something inside him was already slipping away. Around 3:17 a.m., he got out of bed. I heard the floorboard near the dresser creak, the one we always meant to fix and never did. Then the bedroom door opened softly, closed, quiet again. I waited 5 minutes. Then I followed. The attic light was on. That alone sent a chill through me. In 12 years, Ethan had gone up there exactly once when we moved in. He'd carried boxes up, stacked them neatly, and come back down like the space didn't exist anymore. Now the pull-down ladder was extended and shadows moved above me. "Ethan?" I called quietly. "I'm okay," he said, too fast. I climbed up. The attic smelled like dust and insulation, old cardboard and forgotten years. Boxes lined the walls, holiday decorations, tax files, winter clothes, normal stuff, except for the ones in the corner, brown, unlabeled, sealed with yellowed tape. Ethan was kneeling in front of them, one already open. "I don't remember packing these," he said. Inside were folders, envelopes, a few photo albums with cracked plastic covers. I picked one up. The first photo stopped my breath. It was Ethan, younger, maybe 20, standing beside a woman I'd never seen before. She had her arm hooked through his, smiling wide, familiar in a way that felt intimate. "What trip was this?" I asked. He frowned. He doesn't know. I flipped the page. Another woman, different city, different haircut, same Ethan. In some photos, he looked happy. In others, tense, guarded, like he was waiting for something to go wrong. "These aren't ours," I said slowly. He nodded. "That's what scares me." We sat on the attic floor, surrounded by proof of a life that didn't include me. "Maybe they're just old friends," I offered weakly. "Then why don't I remember them?" he asked. "And why are there so many?" I pulled out an envelope. Inside were printed emails, old, dates from years before we met. The subject lines were worse than the messages. "You promised." "They're asking questions." "You can't disappear again." My throat tightened. "Disappear from what?" I whispered. Ethan rubbed his temples like the pressure inside his head might split him open. "I've always had gaps, little ones, whole years that feel foggy. I thought that was normal. Everyone forgets things." "Not like this." We kept digging. A driver's license copy, expired, different state, same face, a hospital bracelet with his name but a different middle initial, and then the journal, leather-bound, worn, his handwriting on the first page. "If I ever start to forget, this is why." My heart pounded. He hesitated before opening it. "I don't know if I want to read this," he said. I understood. Once you know, you can't unknow. But the silence was already gone. He opened the journal. The first entry was dated 15 years ago, and it ended with a sentence that made my stomach drop. "If anyone ever finds this, it means I failed to keep us safe." I looked at my husband, this man I loved, trusted, built a life with, and realized something terrifying. Whatever Ethan had done before me, whatever he'd been running from, it wasn't finished with him yet. And somehow, without knowing it, I'd married myself right into the middle of it. Ethan didn't read the journal out loud at first. He just stared at the page, eyes moving slowly, like every sentence carried weight. His breathing changed, shorter, tighter. "What does it say?" I asked. He shook his head. "Give me a second." I watched his face while he read. I'd known that face for years, the way his jaw set when he was stressed, the tiny twitch near his eye when he was trying not to show fear. That twitch was there now. Finally, he handed me the journal. "I think you should see this," he said. The handwriting was his. I'd recognize it anywhere. Clean, careful, almost too controlled. "If you're reading this, it means the symptoms are progressing faster than expected. I hoped I'd have more time." My chest tightened. I made choices when I was younger that can't be undone. I didn't hurt anyone physically, but I lied. I disappeared. I let people believe things that weren't true because it was easier than explaining the truth. I looked up at Ethan. "Do you know what this means?" He shook his head again. "I swear I don't." I kept reading. "The people in these photos mattered to me. Not all of them knew each other. Some weren't even supposed to know me. That's the problem." That sentence sat heavy. I didn't plan to build a new life. It just happened. And once it did, I was too afraid to go back. My throat felt dry. "You built a life with me," I said softly. "I know," he replied, and I meant every part of it. I believed him. That was the worst part. Further in, the tone changed, less reflective, more urgent. "There's a reason I don't talk about my childhood, about my mother, about the years between 22 and 27. I stopped. "That's when these photos are from," I said. Ethan nodded slowly. "That's the gap." I turned the page. "If my memory starts failing, the truth won't stay buried, and when it comes back, it won't be gentle." A chill ran through me. "What truth?" I asked. He rubbed his hands together, restless. "I don't know yet." We reached the last written page. No dramatic confession, no crime spelled out, just one final line, underlined twice. "If I forget who I was, I might finally tell the truth without realizing it." The attic felt colder. "So you hid something, and now the thing that protected it, your memory, is breaking." Ethan's voice was barely there. "Yeah." I thought of the doctor's office, the shaking hands, the way he'd said he needed to figure this out before it got worse. "Someone could come looking," I said. "I think they already have," he replied. I froze. "What do you mean?" He reached into the box and pulled out something I hadn't seen yet, a folded piece of paper. Recent, no dust, no yellowing. He unfolded it. There was no letterhead, no signature, just 6 words typed clean and centered on the page. "We know where you are." The attic went silent. No creaking, no wind, no sound at all. That's when I understood something I hadn't allowed myself to think before. This wasn't just about Ethan losing his past. It was about someone else remembering it. And whatever Ethan did, whatever he'd escaped, it was finally done waiting. We didn't sleep after that. The note stayed on the kitchen table like it had weight, like it could slide off on its own if we looked away too long. "Maybe it's a prank," I said around dawn, though neither of us believed it. Ethan shook his head. "They used the old email once, years ago, same phrasing." My stomach tightened. "So someone from before us?" "Yes." The sun rose anyway. Birds did what birds do. Our neighbors started their cars and waved like nothing in the world had shifted. I watched Ethan pour coffee and forget to drink it. By 9:12 a.m., there was a knock at the door. 3 taps. Firm. Patient. Not rushed. Ethan and I looked at each other. "Don't," I whispered. He didn't answer. He was already moving. When he opened the door, the man standing there looked ordinary in the most unsettling way. Mid-40s, brown jacket, no badge, no smile. The kind of face you'd forget 5 minutes after seeing it. "Ethan Hale?" the man asked. "Yes," Ethan said. The man nodded slightly. "May I come in?" I stepped forward. "Who are you?" He glanced at me. "A friend of a friend." Ethan's shoulders tensed. "We don't want trouble," the man continued calmly. "We just need to talk." "No," I said firmly. "You can talk from there." Something flickered across his face. Amusement, maybe. "That won't be necessary," he said. "We already know what we need." Ethan swallowed. About what? The man tilted his head. About what you forgot. Silence stretched. You should leave, Ethan said. The man's gaze slid past him, into our house, our life, our photos on the wall. You don't have much time, and neither do we. Then he handed Ethan a card. No name, just a number. We'll be in touch, the man said, already stepping away. He didn't threaten us, didn't raise his voice, didn't look back. That scared me more than anything else. After the door closed, Ethan leaned against it like his legs had given out. They're not law enforcement, he said. How do you know? They would have come harder. I picked up the card. The paper was thick, expensive. What do they want? I asked. He stared at the floor. Closure. For what? For something I don't remember doing. The phone rang that evening. Unknown number. Ethan didn't answer. It rang again, and again. Finally, I picked it up. Hello? A woman's voice answered, smooth, controlled. Tell Ethan he has 7 days. 7 days for what? I demanded. To remember, she said. The line went dead. I stood there holding the phone, heart racing, while Ethan watched me like he already knew what she'd said. Whatever you did, I whispered, they're done waiting. Ethan closed his eyes. And so is my memory, he said. That night, he woke up screaming a name he swore he'd never heard before, and I realized something terrifying. The truth wasn't gone. It was waking up. The name stayed with him all morning. Ethan said it once in his sleep, sharp, broken, like it tore its way out of him, and then again while brushing his teeth, as if his mouth remembered before his mind did. Lena, he whispered. I stood in the doorway watching him grip the sink. Do you know her? I asked. He shook his head. I don't know anyone by that name. But his hands were trembling. We tried to go on with the day. That was the mistake. Normal routines only made the cracks louder. He put his phone in the freezer instead of the fridge, forgot how to start the lawnmower he'd owned for years, called me Claire once, then apologized so fast his eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry, he said. I don't know why that came out. I smiled and told him it was okay. It wasn't. By noon, the phone rang again. Same unknown number. This time, Ethan answered. I'm trying, he said before the voice even finished speaking. I swear I am. He listened, nodded, sat down. No, he said quietly. I don't remember that part. Silence. Then, I'm not lying. His face went pale. I didn't mean to, he whispered. I thought she was safe. I stepped closer. Ethan? He covered the phone. They're asking about a woman. My heart dropped. Lena? His eyes met mine. Yes. The call ended without goodbye. Ethan sat there for a long time after that. When he finally spoke, his voice sounded older. I think I left someone behind, he said. What do you mean left? I think I promised to come back, he replied, and I didn't. The journal came out again. This time we read it together, slowly, carefully, like it might bite. Buried halfway through was a paragraph we'd missed. If Lena ever looks for me, it means she finally stopped believing my excuses, and if that happens, everything I buried will surface with her. I felt sick. Excuses for what? I asked. Ethan pressed his fingers to his temples. I don't know, but it feels bad. The doorbell rang. We both jumped. This time it was our neighbor, Mrs. Calder, holding a misdelivered package. She smiled, chatted, completely unaware that our lives were unraveling inches away from her. As soon as she left, Ethan locked the door. "We're being watched," he said. "No," I said, trying to stay calm. "They want something. Watching is just how they pressure." "What if I don't remember in time?" he asked. I didn't answer. That evening, we found the email. No subject line, no greeting, just a scanned photo attached. A young woman standing on a dock at sunset, blonde hair tied back, arms crossed, waiting. Written underneath in the same clean font as the note, "She's done waiting too." Ethan stared at the screen. "I loved her," he said suddenly. I swallowed hard. "How do you know?" "Because forgetting her hurts and forgetting you doesn't." That should have comforted me. Instead, it scared me more than anything else, because love wasn't the thing he'd forgotten. It was what he'd done to protect it. The memories didn't return gently. They came like bruises, tender at first, then aching deeper the more Ethan tried to ignore them. By the third day, he was afraid to sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, his body reacted before his mind did. His pulse spiked, his breath went shallow. Once he woke up with his hands raised in front of his face, like he was shielding himself from something that wasn't there. "I don't think I lost my memory," he said quietly that morning. "I think I locked it away." I sat across from him at the kitchen table, the journal between us, untouched coffee growing cold. "From what?" I asked. He shook his head. "From what I was capable of." That afternoon, he remembered the place. Not clearly, not fully, but enough. "A lake," he said, staring at the wall. "North of here, or maybe west. There was a cabin. Someone else paid for it. I didn't ask questions." "Who was there?" I asked. He swallowed. "Me, Lena, and someone who didn't want to be seen." That was the first time he said it, out loud. "Someone else." "You weren't alone," I said. "No," he replied, and that's the part I was supposed to forget. The phone rang again at sunset. This time, Ethan put it on speaker. The woman's voice returned, calm, measured, precise. "You remembered the lake," she said. Ethan's face drained of color. "So you're capable. Good. That saves us time." "What do you want?" I demanded. There was a pause, then, "Truth." Ethan laughed softly. "I don't even know it myself." "That's not entirely true," she said. "You remember the deal." "I remember being afraid," he said. "You were afraid then," she replied. "You should be afraid now." The call ended. That night, Ethan finally opened the last sealed envelope from the attic. Inside was a key and a receipt. Storage unit, paid in cash, last accessed 8 years ago. The address was less than 2 hours away. "I never told you about this," he said. "No, you didn't." He looked at me then, not with fear, not with confusion, but with something closer to shame. "If you don't come with me," he said, "I understand." I didn't hesitate. "I married you," I said, "not the version of you that's convenient." The storage unit sat at the edge of an industrial strip, surrounded by chain-link fencing and silence. Ethan's hands shook as he unlocked the door. Inside was one item, a locked metal case, and taped to it, yellowed, deliberate, were 5 words written in his handwriting: "Do not open alone." Ethan closed his eyes. "I think this is where everything went wrong." And as the sun dipped below the warehouses, I realized something chilling. The memories weren't coming back by accident. They were being pulled out, piece by piece, by someone who knew exactly where Ethan's mind would break first. The lock on the metal case resisted at first. Ethan tried once, then again. Each click echoed inside the storage unit like it was louder than it should have been. I stood close enough to feel the heat coming off his body, close enough to grab him if whatever was inside knocked the air out of him. The lock finally gave. Ethan didn't open the case right away, he just stared at it. "I'm afraid of what I'll recognize," he said. "Then we do it together," I replied. He lifted the lid. Inside were documents, neatly stacked, organized, too organized for something meant to be forgotten. Photos came first, not casual ones, surveillance style, long-distance shots, a cabin near a lake, a woman on a dock. "Lena, you were watching her," I said quietly. "No," Ethan said, voice hollow. "I was watching for her." He flipped through more pages, printed emails, contracts, names blacked out with thick marker, and then the document that made his hands drop, a non-disclosure agreement. His name was on it, signed, dated 12 years ago. I scanned the page. "This is private security work," I said. "Not government, but powerful." Ethan shook his head. "I wasn't trained for this. I wasn't supposed to be the one involved. Then why were you?" He pressed his palm to his chest. "Because she trusted me." The pieces began to align. Lena hadn't been a random woman. She'd been a liability, or a witness, or something worse. "I think she found something," Ethan said slowly. "Something she wasn't supposed to." "And you?" I asked. "I was supposed to keep her quiet." The words hung there. I waited for him to say he'd failed. I waited for him to say he'd walked away. Instead, he whispered, "I promised to protect her." My heart pounded. "And did you?" Tears filled his eyes. "I don't know." There was one final item in the case, a flash drive, unlabeled. Ethan didn't touch it. "I don't remember what's on that, but I remember deciding I couldn't watch it anymore." We stood there in silence, the storage unit humming faintly with electricity. Then my phone buzzed. A text. Unknown number. "You opened it. Good. Now you're close enough to remember the part that matters." I typed back before Ethan could stop me. "What part?" The reply came instantly. "The part where you chose who mattered more." Ethan stared at the phone. "I think," he said slowly, "this is where I stopped being the man you married." I took his hand. "No," I said, "this is where you decide who you are now." Outside, a car engine started, not ours, and suddenly I knew we weren't alone anymore. The past hadn't just caught up. It had found us. The car didn't move. That was the worst part. It idled across the lot, engine low, patient, like whoever sat inside knew rushing would only scare us into doing something stupid. "Get in our car," I whispered. Ethan didn't argue. We drove without speaking, not toward home, not toward the highway, just away. Only when the storage facility disappeared in the rearview mirror did Ethan finally breathe. "They didn't follow," I said. "Not yet," he replied. "They want me thinking." That night, he remembered the argument. It came suddenly, while he was washing his hands, staring at the water like it was doing something wrong. "I yelled at her," he said. "At Lena?" I asked. "Yes." His voice shook. "I told her she couldn't keep digging, that people didn't disappear for no reason." I turned off the stove and faced him. "She wouldn't listen," he continued. "She said the truth mattered more than safety." "That sounds like her," I said, surprising myself. I'd never met Lena, but I felt like I knew her already. Ethan nodded. "She was stubborn," smart, and she trusted me. He leaned against the counter. I didn't turn her in, he said. I didn't hand her over. Relief flickered in my chest. But, he added, I didn't stop them either. The relief died. I made a deal, he said quietly. I agreed to walk away, to forget, to disappear into a life so ordinary no one would ever connect me to her. My voice was barely a whisper. And Lena? She refused, he said. She said forgetting was just another kind of death. The image from the email flashed in my mind. Lena on the dock, arms crossed, waiting. She stayed, Ethan said. She said someone had to remember. I sat down hard. And now, I said, they think you're remembering again. He nodded. That's when the flash drive came back into my thoughts. We need to see what's on it, I said. Ethan looked terrified. What if it's proof? Of what? I asked. He met my eyes. Of who I chose to save. We waited until morning. We plugged the drive into an old laptop Ethan kept in the garage, offline, untouched. The screen flickered. One folder, one video file, dated 11 years ago. Ethan hovered over the mouse. If I watch this, he said, there's no going back. I took his hand. I said, you already went forward. You just don't remember how. He clicked play. The video opened on a shaky image of a cabin interior. Then Lena's face filled the screen. Bruised, angry, alive. If you're watching this, she said, staring straight into the camera, it means you chose to forget instead of choosing me. Ethan made a sound like he'd been hit. Lena continued, voice steady despite everything. I don't hate you for it, but I need you to know something. She leaned closer. If they ever come back to you, it's because they never found what I took. The video cut to black. Ethan stared at the screen. What did she take? He whispered. Outside, tires crunched on gravel. Slow, deliberate, and this time, they stopped right in front of our house. Neither of us moved. The headlights stayed on, cutting through the living room curtains like a warning. Not flashing, not aggressive, just present. They're here, Ethan said. I know. I reached for my phone. No signal. That hadn't happened by accident. A knock followed. Not loud, not urgent. 3 soft taps, just like before. Ethan stood slowly, like sudden movement might trigger something worse. Wait, I whispered. Let me. I opened the door. The woman stood alone this time. Mid-30s, dark coat, calm eyes that measured everything without giving anything away. Good evening, she said. I was hoping we could talk. You already have, I replied, through threats. She smiled faintly. Those were reminders. You're trespassing, I said. On land, maybe, not on history. Ethan stepped beside me. What do you want? Her eyes flicked to him. You're closer than you think. To what? He asked. She tilted her head. To understanding why Lena mattered. My voice hardened. You said she took something. She did, the woman said, and she hid it better than we expected. Ethan clenched his jaw. What was it? The woman paused, like she was deciding how much truth to give. She took proof, not documents, not files. Then what? I asked. She looked straight at Ethan. She took names. The word landed heavy. Names of people who disappear problems, people who profit when truth stays buried, people who don't exist on paper but move money and outcomes. Ethan's face went pale. She memorized them, the woman said, because Lena didn't trust hard drives or clouds or men who made deals. My stomach turned. That's what you couldn't forget, she added, because if you remembered fully, you'd remember who else was involved. Silence stretched. And now? Ethan asked. Now your condition is inconvenient. Memories leak, people talk, patterns reappear. I stepped forward. You're afraid. She didn't deny it. We prefer certainty, she said. And Lena? Ethan asked. Is she alive? The woman's eyes didn't move. Yes, she said, for now. Ethan's breath hitched. She stayed hidden because she believed you would stay forgotten, but now she's moving again. What happens if she talks? I asked. The woman's gaze finally met mine fully. Then everyone loses control. And you're here to stop that, I said. I'm here to offer Ethan a chance, Ethan said. To do what? She handed him a small envelope. Finish what you started, or finally choose differently. She turned to leave. Wait, I said. What happens if he refuses? She looked back. Then we stop assuming he's harmless. The car pulled away. Ethan opened the envelope. Inside was an address and a date, 2 days from now. I think, he said quietly, this is where I meet Lena again. My chest tightened. And this time, I said, you won't forget what you choose. Ethan nodded. I just hope, he whispered, that remembering doesn't cost more than forgetting did. The address led us east. Not to a city, not to a safe place, just a stretch of road that narrowed the farther we drove, where cell service faded and trees pressed in like they were listening. Ethan hadn't spoken for 30 miles. I remember this turn, he finally said. My grip tightened on the steering wheel. From when? From the night I left her. We parked near an old rest stop that hadn't been used in years, broken vending machines, a picnic table splitting at the center, the kind of place people forgot existed. Lena was already there. She looked older than the woman in the video, harder, leaner, but her eyes, sharp, unafraid, were exactly the same. She didn't smile. I wondered when you'd remember enough to come, she said. Ethan froze. I'm sorry, he said immediately. I didn't mean... She raised a hand. Don't explain yet. Sit. We sat. She looked at me. You must be her. I nodded. She deserves the truth, Lena said to Ethan, not the edited version. He swallowed. I didn't sell you out, I swear, she replied. I know. You just walked away when it got dangerous. That wasn't cowardice, he said. They would have killed you. And they might still, Lena said calmly. That's why we're here. She reached into her jacket and pulled out a folded sheet of paper, handwritten, names, initials, dates. I memorized everything, she said, but memory fades, even mine. Ethan stared at the list. These are the people you protected and the people you let live. My breath caught. You were never the villain, Lena continued. You were the delay. Ethan shook his head. That doesn't make it better. No, she agreed, but it makes it honest. She looked at me. He didn't forget because he was weak, she said. He forgot because remembering would have destroyed everything, including you. I felt something break open in my chest. Lena stood. They gave you the choice once, she said to Ethan. Disappear and forget, or stay and die. He nodded slowly. They're giving you the choice again, only this time you won't forget what you choose. What happens if I go public? Ethan asked. She didn't hesitate. They fall, and so do you. And if I don't? Then they stay powerful, and the truth dies quietly. The wind moved through the trees. I looked at my husband, the man I married, the man he'd been, the man he was becoming. What do you want? I asked him. Ethan closed his eyes. For once, I want the truth to stop hiding behind me. Lena exhaled slowly. Then we moved to night. And in that moment, I understood something final. The past wasn't coming for us. We were walking straight into it with our eyes open. We didn't go home. Lena insisted on that first. Too predictable, she said. They watch patterns, houses, routines. Instead, we drove south, switching cars twice, stopping only long enough to trade keys and move again. Ethan followed every instruction without question, like some part of him had slipped back into an older rhythm, alert, focused, awake. By midnight, we reached a motel tucked behind a shuttered gas station. Lena locked the door, closed the curtains, and finally sat down. This is where it ends, she said, one way or another. Ethan nodded. Tell me everything. She studied him carefully. If I do, you don't get to forget again, even if it breaks you. I know. I'm ready. Lena pulled out a burner phone and placed it on the bed. This is how they found you, she said, not because you remembered, because I moved. She met his eyes. I reached out to someone on that list, quietly, someone who was ready to talk. My stomach dropped. You woke them up. Yes, and that's why they came back to Ethan. Ethan leaned forward. I wasn't the risk. You were. She nodded. And now you're the shield. She took a breath and began. 12 years ago, she'd uncovered a private network, corporate, political, financial, designed to erase inconvenient people, whistleblowers, accountants, journalists. The disappearances looked random. They weren't. They didn't kill everyone, she said. They reassigned them, new names, new lives, silence in exchange for survival. Ethan's face tightened. And you, she said, were hired as a liaison, not an enforcer, a conscience. I was supposed to talk them down, Ethan whispered. Yes, and you did, Lena replied. Sometimes. She told him about the night at the cabin, the ultimatum. Walk away, forget, live, or stay, remember, and vanish permanently. You chose life, she said, and you chose to leave me with the truth. Ethan's hands shook. I thought forgetting would protect everyone, he said. It did, Lena replied, for a while. She handed him the burner phone. There's a recording on here, she said. If it's released, it exposes them. Names, money trails, everything. And you want me to decide, he said. Yes. Why me? I asked. Lena looked at me gently. Because he's the only one who ever walked away with his soul intact. Ethan stared at the phone. If he released it, his life would end as he knew it. If he didn't, the truth would disappear with Lena. He looked at me. I don't want to be protected anymore, he said. I want to be responsible. He pressed play, and as the voices filled the room, calm, powerful, damning, Ethan didn't flinch. For the first time, he wasn't running from his memory. He was standing inside it. The recording didn't sound dramatic. No shouting, no threats, just calm voices discussing lives the way other people discussed budgets. That's what makes it real, Lena said quietly as the audio ended. Power never sounds angry, it sounds certain. Ethan sat very still. He wasn't shaking anymore. That scared me more than when he was. If this goes out, he said slowly, there's no version of our life that stays untouched. I nodded. I know. They'll come after you, he said to Lena. They already have, she replied. And after you, he said to me. I reached for his hand. They already are. Silence settled over the motel room. Finally, Ethan spoke. There's something else I remember now. Lena looked up. The deal, he said. The part I never wrote down. What part? She asked. They said if I ever talked, he continued, they wouldn't erase me. My stomach dropped. They'd erase whoever stood next to me. The words hit like ice water. Lena closed her eyes. I didn't pull my hand away. So this is the real choice, I said calmly. Not truth versus lies. Ethan met my gaze. It's truth versus collateral damage. Lena stood and paced the room. I didn't know that, she said. I wouldn't have brought you into this. You didn't, I replied. He did, when he married me without telling me the truth. Ethan flinched. I'm not angry, I said gently, but I won't be protected by ignorance. I took a breath. If we stay silent, I said, people keep disappearing. Maybe not us, but someone. And if we talk, Ethan said, we lose everything. Maybe, I replied, or maybe we lose the lie that everything was safe. Lena stopped pacing. You don't have to decide tonight, she said. I can disappear again. No, Ethan said firmly. That's what started this. He picked up the burner phone, then set it down. I need one thing first, he said. What? Lena asked. I need to tell someone who isn't part of this, he said. Someone who knew me before I forgot. I thought of the attic, the journal, the line he'd written years ago. If I forget who I was, I might finally tell the truth without realizing it. You already are, I said. Ethan looked at the phone again. This time his voice didn't shake. I won't disappear again, he said. And I won't let you, I added. Lena nodded once. Then tomorrow, the truth stops hiding. And for the first time since the silence broke, none of us slept. Morning didn't arrive gently. It came with a knock. Not on the door, on the internet. Lena's phone buzzed first, then mine, then Ethan's, notifications stacked on top of each other like falling dominoes. They leaked it, I said. Ethan was already scrolling, eyes sharp. Not us, someone else did. Lena exhaled slowly. Good, that means we weren't the only ones holding copies. The recording was everywhere. Anonymous uploads, foreign servers, journalists tagging each other in urgent threads. Names were being said out loud, carefully at first, then with growing confidence. The kind of confidence that comes when you realize you're not alone. By noon, a senator resigned. By afternoon, a financial firm froze its accounts. By evening, the word disappearances was trending next to words like covert, reassigned, consentless. The world had found the story. Ethan watched it unfold with a strange calm. I remember now, he said, quietly. Lena turned to him. All of it? He nodded. Enough. He remembered sitting across from men who never raised their voices, remembered being praised for empathy while being used as leverage, remembered convincing himself that silence was the same as mercy. I thought walking away made me better, he said. It just made me useful. I squeezed his hand. Sirens wailed in the distance. Not for us, not yet. Lena packed quickly. They'll come, she said, but not the way you think. Law enforcement? I asked. And worse, she replied, people who believed they were untouchable. She stopped at the door and looked at Ethan. You don't owe me anything, she said. You already paid by remembering. Ethan shook his head. I owe you an apology. She smiled faintly. You already gave it, 12 years ago, by leaving me with the truth. She left before dawn the next day. No goodbye, just absence. By afternoon, Ethan was asked to testify. By nightfall, our house was surrounded, not by threats, but by cameras. I stood in our kitchen, the same one where this had all begun, and realized something simple and devastating. Our life wasn't ending, it was changing shape. And change, once exposed, doesn't ask permission. Ethan looked at me. I don't know what happens next, he said. I nodded. But for the first time, he added, I know who I am. Outside, the world was finally listening, and the silence was gone. The noise didn't last forever. That surprised me. After the hearings, after the headlines, after the long nights of Ethan sitting under bright lights, answering questions he once tried to forget, the world moved on. It always does. The cameras left first, then the letters slowed, then the phone stopped ringing in the middle of the night. What stayed was quieter. He still forgets small things sometimes, where he put his keys, why he walked into a room, names of people he hasn't seen in years. But he doesn't forget himself anymore. That's the difference. Some mornings, Ethan sits on the porch with his coffee and stares out at the trees like he's counting breaths. I used to ask what he was thinking about. Now I don't. Some things don't need to be said to be real. Lena never contacted us again. But once, months later, a book arrived in the mail. No return address. Inside the cover was a single line, handwritten. You remembered when it mattered. We never spoke about it. There are consequences we still live with, friends who pulled away, opportunities that quietly disappeared, a sense of safety that never fully returned. Truth doesn't give refunds, but it gives something else. One night, not long ago, Ethan woke up confused, disoriented, afraid. Tell me who I am, he whispered. I didn't panic. I didn't rush. I just held his face and said, You're the man who chose to remember, even when it cost you. He smiled, and then he slept. That's how I know this story isn't about memory. It's about choice, about the quiet courage it takes to stop hiding, even when hiding feels safer. Some people think the truth is loud. It isn't. The truth is what's left when the noise fades. And if this story stayed with you, if any part of it felt familiar, please know you're not alone. Some silences are meant to be broken, and some memories, no matter how painful, are worth keeping. If this story stayed with you, if any part of it felt uncomfortably familiar, please know you're not alone. Take a moment to like this video so more people who need stories like this can find it. Subscribe to the channel for weekly, real-life inspired stories about truth, memory, and the quiet courage it takes to face both. And if you feel safe, share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters more than you think. Stories like this don't end when the video stops. They live on in the people who hear them. So if you believe stories can protect, awaken, and heal, subscribe now and turn on notifications so you never miss the next one. I read every comment. Until next time, Trust your memory, protect your truth, and never let silence decide your story.